Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Snaptain SP310. This is a pretty cool and kind of unique little quadcopter. I don't know how well this is going to show up on my head cam, but the unique feature of this is a feature that it says here is called throw and go. And what that means is this quadcopter, its motors can be started up by tossing it into the air. The accelerometer picks that up and it starts the motors, and that's a really neat feature that we will obviously demonstrate in the flight review. So here is the drone. It comes inside the controller. This is a really cool design, and I find this to be a really comfortable controller, just really nicely laid out and of course well labeled. Let's go ahead and look at the drone first. We'll take it out of its little carrying case here. So you just pop that open here, and then you can pull the drone out. And here is the drone. I like this blue, speckled paint finish on it. It just has a little swivel white LED on the front you use for orientation. You can kind of aim it down, though I don't really see the purpose in that. Maybe they plan on making a camera version, I don't know. That's the only light on it. You do have your blue props in the front also to help the orientation, and black in the rear. And this thing flies really, really nice. I really like it a lot. You just take it, throw it up, and then it will start the motors, or you can initiate a takeoff using the auto takeoff feature on the controller. So really, really cool. Just really, really neat. Now it does come with some landing gear. They're here in the bag. You can install those. It could look kind of like a mini Phantom if you put those on. Though I don't mess with the landing gear in this review or in the flight, because you will get a little bit more flight time if you don't put on that extra weight. You're looking at around 7 minutes flight time with this, maybe a little less outdoors, but I got 7 minutes inside with about a 30-second LVC. You may knock 30 seconds or so off if you do put those on. It also has prop guards. If you put these prop guards on, that's going to reduce the flight time even more. You might knock a minute off if you put the landing gear and the prop guards on. You also get two blue and two black, your spare props, a Phillips screwdriver, and you get this pigtail USB charger. It's got two chargers. You're saying, oh, why has it got two chargers? Well, it comes with two batteries. Now I put the bottom of this, your two AA batteries go on the bottom of your controller to power it. It has a spare compartment over here, and this is where I stuck both batteries so I didn't misplace them. I think this middle piece might be for a phone clip holder if they make an FPV version. I really couldn't figure out what that was for. But here's the batteries. You're not going to be able to read these in my camera, but these are 1S 220 milliamp hour. So it comes with two of these with those little 2-pin connectors, and like I said, these get around 7 minutes flight time. So you can plug both of these in to the little pigtail charger, and then you can plug it in the wall, and it takes about a half an hour to charge, but you're charging both of them, so you have them both. So you could take it out and actually get 14 minutes flight time, though I would recommend waiting a minute or two between flights just to let your battery, your motors cool down, to get a little more longevity, because these little micros like this, the motors are going to burn out eventually, and if you run it for a long time in all that heat, you're much more likely to burn a battery out. So here's your little connector in the back. You just pop this tray open, and your battery, I'm not going to plug it in, but the battery actually just slides right in there and you plug it in. It does take a little work to tuck the cable in here. Once you really push it back, the door closes just fine, but it's a little bit of a tight fit. So the controller, like I said, really comfortable. It is of course altitude hold. That's going to help because when you hand launch this, you do need to give it some inputs once you hand launch it to fly it. But at least it won't try to fly up and away from you. It will drift away, but it's not going to take off and go up into the clouds on you. It will hold its altitude. But it doesn't have any fail-safe. So if you throw this up in the air and you got it all bound up and someone throws it, it's going to fly off or drift away. It doesn't cut its motors, like if you don't give it any inputs or anything. So you do need to be prepared as soon as you throw it to start flying it. Also, be mindful of how you're throwing it up in the air so that you know your orientation. I would recommend holding the light away. Most people like to look at the butt of the drone when you're flying it so that your controls are all normal and not reversed. That's how I do it. if you don't pay, especially if you do it inside and you throw it and you don't pay attention, you may fly it right into the wall because you don't realize which way the drone's looking, especially if you can't locate the front white LED. So you got your takeoff button here, so if you just want to take off, especially if you have the landing gear on, you can just press that and it will automatically take off without using the hand launch. You got auto landing, press that, it comes down and it lands. Headless mode and your 1-key return if you choose to use those. Your power button here in the middle. Yeah, I think you do up and down to bind, as you can see, the binding sequence. And this is your pitch and your roll trims. You got a 3D flip button on the top here, and it does do really good 3D flips as you would expect in micro quadcopters usually do. And you got 3 speed rates here, and the yaw does increase in speed with each one of those rates. And you know, you can fly this outdoors, as you'll see in the flight review. I'd recommend the highest rate if you're outdoors, unless you're a beginner and you're having trouble, you might go with intermediate. I wouldn't use the lowest unless it's absolutely calm, because these micros are always going to have a tough time with wind. Now, if you're flying it indoors, you can probably do just fine on the lowest rates, as you're not going to be dealing with wind or breeze or anything like that blowing around. I don't remember, it was maybe down on both sticks in. I'm not sure what the gyro calibration is on it, but I didn't really have any problems with that. But you usually do, like, you know, it is good to find out that in case of a bad crash. Now, speaking of the gyro calibration, these drones would always do that when you start them up or power them up. But if you're going to hand launch, you know, I'd recommend powering this up on a level surface, because it seemed like when I didn't have it like that, it was, the white light didn't want to go solid, I think because it's trying to calibrate the gyro, and maybe it detects it's not level. You know, it's wanting to set it as absolute level. So I'd recommend starting it out on a flat level surface first, then pick it up after you bind it, then do the hand launch. I wouldn't power it up and bind it in your hand, just because it might actually try to calibrate itself as level and not be level, and then it might be wanting to drift on you each way or something. That's just what I noticed. So I let it bind it on a level surface, then I picked it up, and then I hand launched it. And of course, it's going to be a little easier with the legs on. If you don't have it on this belly, you know, it might kind of not be real level on that. But I like to fly it this way because you're going to get a little more flight time. But the legs look pretty cool. Some people are going to want to put the legs on just to make it a little, I guess, a little bit easier to land level. All right, well, that's pretty much all there is to this. There's not a whole lot with this drone, especially since there's no cam or anything. But boy, it's really fun. Also, of course, with the landing gear off, you can put it back in and store it real quick. If you have the landing gear on, you have to pop those legs off to put it back in the storage case. So that's the only reason why I'm not like super big on the landing gear, just because you can put it back in there really quick with it off. All right, let's wrap up this quick table review portion. Let's head on outside now. We'll go outside now for that flight footage. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's take the Snaptain SP310 out for its test flight. Now I already have it connected to the controller. We'll take it up here and we'll try the hand launch, which is really cool. You know, the gyro must detect the movement, and that tells it to fire up the motors. Really cool little feature. You do want to be mindful when you throw this up that you kind of have an idea about which way your orientation is. You know, if the light facing away, most likely, so that you, when it gets in the air, you have, you know, an idea where your orientation is, especially if you're going to fly it indoors. Now I'm flying it without the landing gear attached. That's going to give it a little more flight time. I got around 7 minutes indoors. I don't expect to get that outdoors because of the wind. You know, I'll be flying more aggressively, but you're probably going to knock at least 30 seconds off your flight time if you do choose to use the landing gear. Also note that when you throw it up in the air, it's going to keep flying, so be quick to start giving you input controls on the controller, because if you throw it up in the air, it's going to drift away. The altitude hold will keep it from going out real high, but it'll just drift off if you don't give it input. It doesn't have any kind of fail safe to cut the motors if there's no inputs after X amount of time. So just be mindful of that. So like I said, we already got it bound up here, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in my hand, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out in front of me. And there it goes. Now you can see the light was facing towards me. I got in the lowest rate, and there's quite a bit of wind, so now I can move it once I went to the higher rates. The lowest rate didn't have much you know, pitch or roll, so it's really was drifting with this wind that's going from left to right. But I'll show you here if I get closer. There's the lowest rate, there's the medium rate or intermediate, and there's the highest. So the yaw does increase with each rate. Here's the lowest rate, the pitch. See, pretty gentle, not terrible. There's the intermediate rate, and there's the highest rate. Most people, unless you're just starting out, you're going to want to fly this in the highest, or at least the intermediate, outdoors. You know, it can handle a day like today. If it's really windy, obviously not, because it's a, you know, it's a micro, almost a nano. It's quite small. I'd also recommend not messing with that landing gear. It looks cool. I know my friend David, Perth West Oz RC, attached it in his review. I was going to as well, but I thought, you know, I got 7 minutes indoors without it. I'll just keep it that way so we can get the, you know, the longer flight time. Because any little weight you add to these little drones is going to reduce its flight time. Well, any drone really, but I mean these little micros, it can be quite sensitive to the extra weight. Micros, nanos, whoops, all those will. Let's show you some of the flips. It does 360 flips really well, as you'd expect it would. Always going to be good flippers. These, almost always, these little micros and nanos. Not near as much weight to throw around for those motors, so they're not sloppy. Very tight flips. Very, very nice little drone. You know, it's not perfectly balanced on its belly there, you know, without the landing gear, but we can go ahead and do an auto landing here. And it'll ease its way down. But it's close enough that you can see it's a little, you know, it'll balance itself out good enough. You just might want to make sure when you do bind this, when you do first bind this up, I think it kind of does want it level. So if you're going to do a hand launch, try to have it level, or it may not want to bind. The light may not go solid because it needs to know what level is, or it'll be all goofed up and drift off around on you. So make sure you got it level when you do bind it up. And then you can go ahead and hand launch if you wish to. Even if you get the landing gear, you may not have it level in your hand. So be mindful of that, or set it on a flat surface, especially if you have the landing gear on. It's going to get a nice, good level calibration. Let's go ahead and we'll do another toss here. Toss it, and there we go. I always do it with the light facing away from me, but the first time I did it indoors, I didn't even think to pay attention, and I immediately crashed it because I didn't see the light, which is easy to see. It's a very bright little LED, see there? So I lost orientation and crashed it into the TV. It's a rugged little guy. I mean, I've crashed it several times indoors. Like I said, because of the hand launch and you know, just going down my hallway where it's kind of narrow, and I've not busted. I mean, the props aren't even damaged. So a really rugged little quadcopter. My friend John Coopy has it also, and he's did the hand launch and was testing to see, you know, how long did it fly, what did it do when you're gonna hand launch it and you don't give it any kind of control inputs. And it flew into the ceiling and went all over the house on its own, and it didn't, you know, it was perfectly fine. No damage at all to it. I think the battery door fell off on him, but that was easy enough to snap right back on. So if you got this thing powered up and it's sitting there on the table or something, you got a little kid around, be mindful that they could pick this drone up, throw it in the air like a kid's bound to do, and it'll take off, and it's going to just go up to, you know, whatever height it gets thrown to, and it's going to keep that altitude, but it's just going to drift off. It will not cut the motors. At least not that I'm aware of. I don't know if your controller, you know, I think the controller probably has to be bound for it to do the auto, you know, the auto start, throw and go, but I don't know if it'll cut the motors if it gets out of range of the controller. It might. But the case in point, don't throw this thing up in the air if you don't plan to immediately give it controls, or you could lose it. That's what I'm getting at. Again, I got around a little over 7 minutes indoors. The LBC was around 30 seconds. That white light here in the front will begin to slowly flash, and then it'll eventually land itself because it has altitude hold, so it'll ease itself down to the ground. I'm thinking with the landing gear, you're probably looking at 6 to 6.5 minutes. That's just a guess. I haven't tested it with the landing gear. But, you know, around 7 minutes indoors especially. I don't know if we'll get that out here. You know, it does come with 2 batteries, and each battery can be a bit different on the run time. This is, the 7 minutes was done on the other battery, and this is, you can charge them both at the same time, which is quite cool. So this is the spare battery. So, you know, you can get a slight difference in flight time between two lipos, as you know, but it won't be much. 10-15 seconds. But nice long flyer, fun little drone. They really, I mean, with or without the landing gear, it's great indoors, outdoors. I mean, as long as you have a day that's not super windy. And while I've been flying this, right now it's rather calm. You'll see it drift to the right because there is a breeze. I had it trimmed up inside though, where it was just like it had position hold. It didn't move around at all. I've got to keep giving it left input, roll input to fight the slight breeze because it's so small. But it's certainly not a problem flying this guy outside unless it's really windy. We still have good battery because it flips when you reach the LVC, just like all the drones do. You can't do flips once it reaches a low voltage because it just doesn't have the oomph to do it well. So they disable that when it reaches a low voltage. Let's go ahead. I'm going to have it land in my hand if I can. Oh, there, I thought it did it. As it's trying to go to my hand, I did this indoors, it's trying to sense your hand if it's landing or not. It's kind of neat. And sometimes it can kind of miss it because it's being really extra careful that it's actually landing on a surface. This is a really cool drone. I like that they have the hand launch because you just don't see much innovation in the hobby right now because it's kind of gotten stagnant. And I like that Snaptain actually has something that nobody else, at least I'm aware of, has this feature. There's like a shake and throw I've heard of, but not when we actually toss it in the air. So let's go ahead and toss it again. We still got some battery. There we go. I'll make sure I'm in the highest rate. Yes, I was. 3 beeps. This seems like it's flying quite a long time for me. Maybe we'll get around that. I don't know how long this has been so far. But yeah, I was around. I didn't get an exact time because when you're flying and it crashes, and you don't always have a chance to stop your timer immediately. But it was right around 7 minutes on my phone. It was a little more than that, but I took a little time off for a few crashes and stuff where I didn't get it stopped the timer really quickly. Now we got the LVC now. You see the light flashing there. Hopefully that'll show up my head cam. See the light flashing? If I try to do a flip now, it's not going to let me. See, now it's going to ease itself down. It's going to try to find a surface, and there it is. All right, so it landed in the yard here. You know, it had a low voltage for a little bit there before I noticed it blinking. So it was around a half a minute, maybe 20 seconds. You know, low voltage. The controller doesn't beep on this one like some of the Snaptains, but this is a micro, that's fine. You're not going to fly this far enough away that you need to know that it's reached low voltage. The controller is just so comfortable. Just really, this is just an exceptional little quadcopter. I absolutely love it. You know, really nice. Good job by Snaptain on this. You can pick this up if you're interested, and I have a purchase link to this on Amazon where Snaptain sells all their stuff, and you can pick this up. I don't know the cost of it, but it's not going to be very expensive. Really cool little drone. All right, guys, so I hope you like this, you know, this unique throw and go little quadcopter. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber, and click the bell so you're notified when I do upload a new video, because it's easy to miss that, and then you miss a bunch of videos. And as always, guys, have a great day.
The power of the dark side.